Currently, it is 81 degrees here at campus of St. Louis Community College, Florissant Valley. I'm Jell with your noon news update. A man was shot trying to break into a St. Louis home. An investigation is underway after a man was shot to death while trying to break into a home in South St. Louis. Police say the incident happened last night in the 4300 block of Wallace Street. The shooting victim was trying to enter the home through a window when someone who lived there shot and killed him. The man had a domestic relationship with a woman in the property. A trial is set to begin this week in St. Louis over claims a baby powder product sold by Johnson & Johnson contributed to ovarian cancer in women. Jury selection kicked off yesterday. The case has 22 plaintiffs, including a woman from O'Fallon, Missouri. The trial is expected to last about 6 weeks. And no one is hurt after a building collapsed in North St. Louis. The collapse happened yesterday morning in the 5000 block of Genevieve Avenue. Investigators are trying to determine what caused the incident. And now on to the weather. Today, it is sunny with a high of 89, low of 65. Humidity 30%. Sunny day. Wednesday, it will be a high of 91, low of 70. And it will still be quite sunny. Thursday, partly cloudy, high of 94, low of 71. Friday, partly cloudy, high of 94, low of 72. And Saturday, partly cloudy, high of 92, low of 72. It's worth mentioning, Thursday through Saturday, there's a 51% chance of 51% humidity and a 20% chance of precipitation. About wraps up our news and weather. Currently, it's 81 degrees here at KCFV. I'm Jell, and this has been your noon news update. But please stay tuned, because after this, we're going to take a short break, and then I will be back with GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. Until then, though, here is Dizzy by Gen 2 Men, here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. That was Dizzy by Gen 2 Men, here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. So, we like to kick the show off by talking about what games are coming out this week, what's coming out next week, and what anime are in theaters. So, let's kick it off with the PlayStation 4 this week. We've got Origami Nightfall, Origami Shadow Edition, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, and the first DLC character pack for that, along with Far Cry 5 Hours of Darkness, Heimrich, Nobunaga's Ambition Taishi, which probably some DLC, Onrush, hey, that's out, Perils of Baking, Riddled Corpses EX, Roller Coaster Legends 2, Thor's Hammer, which is a PlayStation VR game, Shape of the World, and, believe it or not, Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn. And The Elder Scrolls Online Somerset, The Infectious Madness of Dr. Decker, and Vampire. And then tomorrow, Homestar VR comes out, which, no, has nothing to do with Homestar Runner. It's a planetarium. I'm as disappointed as you are. Also, Awkward comes out the 7th, along with MotoGP 18. And on the 8th, PlayStation 4 Days of Play Edition. Okay, so they're new PlayStation 4 model. Nifty. Xbox One, what you got for us this week? Origami Nightfall, Origami Shadow Edition, Awkward, Far Cry 5, Hours of Darkness, Heimrich, Onrush, Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn, The Elder Scrolls Online Somerset, The Infectious Madness of Dr. Decker, Vampire. It's also getting its delayed Bloodstained Curse of the Moon tomorrow, which is fantastic. Riddled Corpses EX, Shape of the World, MotoGP 18, and Milan Noir. On the Switch this week, we've got Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle and Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle first DLC character pack. Happy birthdays. I guess the non-day one edition of Shantae Half Genie Hero Ultimate Edition is out. That's Love Editions. Shaq Fu, Legend Reborn, though, also available on your Switch, and The Infectious Madness of Dr. Decker. Tomorrow, Shape of the World. And on the 7th, we've got A Magical High School Girl, Arcade Archives Neo Geo Writing Hero, Grid Retro Enhanced, Iro Hero, Kadobat Wars, Samurai Defender Ninja Warfare, the Banner Saga 2, and then on the 8th, we've got Legendary 11, One Strike, Operation Hardcore, Slime San Super Slime Edition, and Sushi Striker, The Way of Sushido. On the 3DS this week, 7th, we get Games for Toddlers 2. I don't know how they're going to play them, but we'll roll with it. Storm Chaser, Tornado Out. Then again, I played, but I wasn't a toddler then. I was going to say, I played video games pretty young, but I think I only played probably just Pong when I was a toddler. Anyway, Storm Chaser, Tornado Alley, and Sushi Striker also come out on the 3DS this week. And on the Vita, we have Riddled Corpses EX and Super Hydora Limited Collector's Edition. Moving on, next week on PlayStation 4, we have Jurassic World Evolution. Moss gets a physical release. Omega Strike, Super Bomberman R, Lego The Incredibles, and that's about it. Moving on, Xbox One, what are you getting next week? Jurassic World Evolution, Super Bomberman R, Lego The Incredibles, and Omega Strike. The Nintendo Switch next week is scheduled to get Hexologic, Tennis World Tour, Yonder, The Cloudcatcher Chronicles, Soccer Slammers, and Lego The Incredibles. And let's see, the 3DS next week is getting nothing, and the Vita next week is getting Muv-Luv and Muv-Luv Alternative. Those are visual novels, which are very strange because the original Muv-Luv is just a very standard high school romance. Muv-Luv Alternative is a horrifying alternate universe mecha story where lots and lots of people die. I hear it brings many people to tears and has traumatized them. So, that might be a good time for everyone, right? Anyway, those are the new game releases for this week and next week. As for anime in theaters, hey, guess what? The Fate Stay Night movie is in theaters today, dubbed, and it will be says it'll be dubbed on the 7th as well. So if you miss it today, it'll also be in theaters on the 7th. Then on the 8th, we have Hikara-san, Here Comes Miss Modern, from June 8th to June 13th. That will pretty much only be at Ronnie's. There's like a theater in Kansas City doing it as well, but yeah, Ronnie's for that one. It's limited release. And as part of Studio Ghibli Fest, we have Pompoko hitting theaters June 17th, dubbed, June 18th, subbed, and June 20th, dubbed. So, that concludes our new game releases for this week and next week, and the new anime in theaters. We will be taking a short break as I get my Note computer actually booted up. Decided to have a long boot up cycle. Because, you know, computers like to be, they like to be helpful. Anyway, I will kick you back to the music, and when we get back, we will have more video game news and information here on GameBabble Live on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. But until that, here's Taking This Over by Whisperwall. Enjoy, and please stay tuned for more. That was It Ain't My Fault by Kimmy K here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back, finally, to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. My deepest apologies. It took so long for me to get back, but there were numerous mishaps with trying to get my list of what few things to talk about this week up. Yes, it's a little bit of a slow week, and for good reason. We got E3 this weekend. So, of course, everyone's like kinda teasing a little bit their games, but not giving me enough information to really work with. So, you know, keeping a lot of surprises for E3, and of course, there's like 9... What the heck? Welcome to 7 Systems PDM. Please wait. This is interesting. I wonder if I'm even audible. Am I okay. I'm sorry. When I see things just light up in... Okay, I'm getting the thumbs up from the station manager. It's fine. Whew. Things were just like... You know, when you've got red lights just suddenly popping up on the station, you get a little worried. Anyway, so... Yeah, there's tons of, like, E3 leak lists running around. I'm not even bothering to look at them. And there's a reason I'm not bothering to look at them. They're probably all fake. And even if they're not fake, I'd kind of like to keep the surprise. I mean, like, what's even the point of discussing these leak lists? Like, one of the big ones a lot of people are talking about is that supposed Star Fox racing game. But I remember some people saying, though, this is coming from a really, really uncredible source. It's probably not being announced, but everyone has latched onto it as being a thing. So, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, not really that much talk. I'm holding my tongue on a lot of that stuff. Talk about a little bit of it, but mostly, wait for E3. Like, one of the few things I will really talk about that is that the Devil May Cry 5 domain has been registered. I mentioned last week that the original voice actor for Dante accidentally seemed to leak, or at least heavily hint, that Devil May Cry 5 was a thing, as he had just finished some voice work for it. So yeah, Devil May Cry 5 is pretty much confirmed for E3. Get excited about that, if you care. Also, we've got some images coming out of Team Sonic Racing, which is the new Sonic kart racer. It is from Sumo Digital, the makers of Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed. But it is all Sonic characters, and supposedly it's only going to have 15 characters, which I think is a little weird. And it's supposed to be completely different. And I wish them the best of luck on that. Sumo Digital has made some phenomenal games, so I'm sure they can make a phenomenal game here. But I'm very concerned because, how do you beat Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed? Because that was kind of one of the best kart racers ever made ever. And I have a very bad feeling that I'm going to play this game and it'll be nice, but I'd rather just have, like, a Switch, Xbox One, PS4 port of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. That might honestly be a lot better. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes down. Also, it's funny, I was just talking about this before the show. It appears that Blizzard has an unannounced Diablo project in the works because they are hiring people to go work on it. So yeah, Diablo 4 is pretty much a thing. And yeah, Nintendo, they've got their E3 events all lined up. They're going to kick it off with the Splatoon 2 World Championship, which will be from June 11th, 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific time, and then finals will be June 12th at 1 p.m. Then June 12th, we got the Nintendo Direct, and then the Nintendo Treehouse Live, followed by the Smash Brothers, the Super Smash Brothers Invitational 2018 will be after the Splatoon 2 World Championships. That will likely be the new, all the new Smash Brothers game, I'd assume. We don't have a lot of information on that new Smash Brothers game. Most of that will, of course, come from E3. Let's see, anything else here? I think it is worth mentioning that Caro Blaster is coming to Switch. If you've never heard of Caro Blaster, it is the newish game. It's been out for a couple years now, from the creator of Cave Story. I previously mentioned that due to legal BS from Nicholas, they will likely not be able to ever make a Cave Story 2, so they made Caro Blaster. So that's the thing. It's about Frog. Got a gun. Moving right along from that, House of the Dead Scarlet Dawn is a new House of the Dead game. It's been out in Japanese arcades for a little bit, and it looks like it'll be coming to US arcades, because it's a light gun game, and that's one of the few things Dave & Buster's actually stocks. So, I do expect that to show up at Dave & Buster's. Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 are likely to hit PS4 in the US. They haven't officially announced it, but they've pretty much said it's happening. They will not be full-on Yakuza Kiwami remakes. They will just be a little bit of spit and polish on Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 as is, because they don't really need to update those games quite so much. I mean, technically, Yakuza Kiwami was a PS3 game anyway, just slapped onto PS4, so yeah, they'll be fine. Also, Soul Calibur 6, they've announced Maxi, so there we go. Another character to check off your list of returning Soul Calibur characters for that. And getting back to last week's topic of censorship, I've looked a little bit more into Agony, and they have announced that the Uncensor patch will not be coming, which is disappointing to many people. Agony is a bit weird. It's a crowd-funded horror game, and I haven't been paying too much attention to it. Apparently, it's pretty darn buggy and needs to be patched up. But yeah, it's another game where you're trapped in hell, and to give a particularly hellish vision of hell, they decided that they were going to actually try courting that adult-only rating that so few games actually go for. They're going to be like, hey, we're gonna use AO to make our game super horrifying. But then they were like, oh no, we can't publish it, so we're going to tone it down to get an M rating, and then we'll release an official uncensored patch. And now that's been canceled because apparently it's causing problems. And this is all very interesting and disconcerting. Because for a while, Steam has been allowing companies to release uncensored patches for their games, and now it seems Steam might be cracking down on that, and now if you release an uncensored patch, your game gets delisted from Steam. That appears to be the situation, which is very unfortunate, and is going to piss off quite a few people, especially considering that was one of the hooks of Agony. One of the weirdest things that a lot of people have been reporting, though, is that the censor patch only removes the female genitalia from the game. Male genitalia still abounds. So even weirder. I don't understand what's going on, but I don't like it, I don't think. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of horror games, so I had no interest in Agony anyway, but I've seen a lot of people talking about it. There's been a lot of interest in it, a lot of talk about it being pretty buggy and not very good, but having a lot of potential, but people being disappointed that they can't uncensor the game. And yeah, it's just been a weird time. Moving on from that, because I think that is a lot of the pre-E3 stuff that I've got going on here. But moving on from that, let's see, where was it? Yes, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. I've been discussing and complaining about it on numerous shows. But as I said, it's very intriguing, and I did decide to pick it up, and from the time I've spent with it, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It might still have some emulation errors, and it's going to be interesting to see them patch those out, but for the most part, it's a very solid compilation. If nothing else, the sheer convenience of the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection is nice, and they did put in some effort. They do have this, making of Street Fighter thing with a bunch of scanned design sketches and documents and things talking about the creation of both Street Fighter 1 and 2. So that's really nice, and they have this whole, character gallery where you can, read profiles for a bunch of the Street Fighter characters, and they've got a sprite viewer, and you can look at how their sprites look in all these different games and stuff. And initially, I was super excited about that until I actually got my hands on it and realized that most of the Street Fighter 1 characters were missing. Didn't even bother with them, huh? And that when you go to the sprite viewer, it's only, certain moves you can view frame by frame. It's not all of their sprites. And it's that's a little disappointing you didn't go all in on that. But then on the flip side, you have the music. You can listen to all the music from all the different games, so that's nice. But weirdly, you can't listen to the remixed music on there. Because, the menus all have, sweet remixed music that you could listen to. And that's not an option. I don't know. Street Fighter 30th is pretty... It's okay. It's got enough stuff there, and the emulation is competent enough that it's all right. A lot of people definitely prefer, if you're just buying it for Third Strike, a lot of people definitely prefer the PS3 and 360 release of Third Strike over this game. It has better netcode and more features and stuff. But they expect more people will be playing this version. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say, but it's all right. Unlike that recent Sega Genesis collection, which has a lot of people very pissed off. Most of the reason people are pissed off about the new PS4, Xbox One, Steam, Sega Genesis collection is because, for the most part, it's the same games we've gotten in every Sega Genesis collection, but the big hook was that this time there's going to be online play for certain games, and people were like, yay, online play. Everyone likes some online play. Online play is great. Bad news. The netcode is garbage. The games are almost unplayable online and have numerous weird design choices, like the ability for one player to just pause the game and leave. It looks like player 1 might actually be able to rewind the game without player 2 knowing, and that causes more netcode issues. Lots of weird hiccups and problems, and there just aren't that many features for the different games. Sound emulation's a little off, but sound emulation is always a little off. And just in general, people are kind of disappointed in that Sega Genesis collection. It's kind of cheap, has a lot of games, a lot of good games, but it's still not as good as they would like, and weirdly doesn't have Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, or Sonic 3 and Knuckles. None of those are in there. All the other Sonic games are, sure, but not those ones. So yeah, people are a little understandably disappointed in this collection. And a lot of people are like, screw Sega, Sega's terrible, blah blah blah. Interestingly, I don't think this collection got released on Switch. And this is where I'm going to remind you, the Switch Sega Ages games will be better. Period. Just guaranteed. Because M2 is actually making them. And I've spoken at length in multiple episodes about why M2 is an incredible company and why I actually trust them to do a good job with their games. However, it's also going to take them a while. So, you gets what you gets. It's going to be a quality over quantity kind of thing. The games will be sold individually, and they'll take a hot minute for them to get released. Pretty curious to see how they go down, though. So, that's a lot of the recent news that we've got so far. So, I do believe it is time for us to take a break before we go crazy with the Pokemons. Because, there was a lot of Pokemon news. A lot of stuff to talk about with Pokemon. Lots of interesting things happening there. So please stay tuned. Until then, here's Gargoyle by Psych Squared here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for more games. That was Just Friends by Morgan Saint here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. So, before the break, I did briefly talk about Team Sonic Racing. I've looked a little more into it, and I have no clue how this game hopes to do well. People have gotten hands-on with it, and everyone playing it is just like, this is almost as good as Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, but not, because it's the same game, but minus all the other Sega characters and the transforming elements, and their replacements are nothing to write home about. Okay, the weapons are now based on the different Wisps, but they're not that impressive, and the main thing is that it is team racing. You play as one character in a racing team of 3. So, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Rouge, Shadow, Omega, like Sonic Heroes, but in cars, and you can draft behind your teammates, and it's your team score that matters. And I'm just listening to that, and I'm just like, that sounds like a gigantic hassle. I don't think team racing sounds good at all, especially when they're like, oh, you could draft behind your teammates. Are you telling me I can't draft behind my enemies? Because that used to be a thing. I know the game, this game already frustrates me. Because I know it'll be a good game, because Sumo Digital's racing games have been very, very good. The original Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing was really, really good. And this will probably be just as good as that. But Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed is one of the greatest racing games ever made. And to go backwards from that, I think pretty much everyone, after they play the game, will just have the same reaction of, can you just port All-Stars Transformed, please? Because it's better? And I will likely be in the same boat. I would absolutely buy that game for the, oh, cripes, Bought it on 360, bought it on Vita, bought it on Wii U, and picked it up on... That'd be 4 times so far. I'd buy it for a 5th time, yeah. Maybe 6th. Yeah, I'd do that. It's Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed is really that good. I still like Jak X more, but it's a really good game, and I don't know how Team Sonic Racing can even possibly compete. This sounds like a bad idea just right from the start. That's going to disappoint a lot of people. So, okay, who knows? Also, in Sega-related news, apparently they've put up a website for the 30th anniversary of the Sega Genesis and the 20th anniversary of the Dreamcast, and they're slowly updating it with new things. Now, we know the Genesis is getting a garbage mini console. It's apparently still from At Games, even though it's being released in Japan, and you'd think that would make it like a better game. No, the Mega Drive Mini, the Genesis Mini, will be garbage. We can almost guarantee that. But it makes us wonder, is there going to be a Dreamcast Mini? And because just the way it's set up, that'd be kind of amazing, but how would you even pull that off? It's there's a lot of questions to be asked about that. I want to know what they're doing for this Dreamcast 20th anniversary. And cripes, it's been 20 years. That just makes me sad. It's been 20 years since the pinnacle of gaming. But that wraps up our non-Pokemon information. So, Pokemon. Before we get into the official stuff, let's get into the craziest thing. The Pokemon Gold 1997 beta demo has leaked, and people are going nuts with it, because it is chock full of alternate designs and weird, never-before-seen Pokemon, like a Pikachu that's on fire. That, if you recall, that was one of the original starter designs. But what's interesting is also the ones that haven't changed, like the entire Chikorita evolution was nailed down by 1997 and was the only design that they had 100% on. Also, Tangela was originally planned to have a pre-evolution and an evolution, which it would get later. Like, I think in Black and White, Tangela got its evolved form, and it's almost identical to the evolved form it would have had back in Gold had it not been cut. So, lots of weird things. And then, oh, egad, I kind of love the beta Pichu, because they had a pre-evolution of Pikachu that was just a ball with Pikachu ears and hands and feet. It was like a Kirby Pikachu. It's kind of amazing. So there were a lot of unused Pokemon in that, and people are, of course, going ham with this. They're downloading that beta, getting in there, checking out all the crazy unused Pokemon. But what makes that really interesting is, like I said, this is the 1997 beta. Pokemon didn't get released in America until 1998, and we're talking Red and Blue. So that gives you an idea of how long Gold and Silver were in development. And it also, it's just interesting to think about. That means it was before Pokemon Mania swept the world was when this beta was created. And as you might have guessed, there's a few Pokemon that didn't change, namely Donphan and Marill are exactly as you remember them. And it's a very interesting, it's an interesting piece of history, and a lot of people are digging it. I need to dig into it. I need to check this goofy thing out, because I love me some weird unreleased beta stuff. And I'm wondering if the popularity of this beta is going to cause any of these Pokemon to make a comeback. Any that get, super popular from it. Because I'm just seeing that happen right now, that someone is going to fall madly in love with some weird, unused Pokemon, and it'll, make a comeback. I could see that happening. It's totally not off the table. Maybe the Flaming Pikachu. But anyway, so, almost immediately after the show last week, Nintendo did their big, shocking Pokemon announcement shindig. And they started with Pokemon Quest, which involves blocky Pokemon that pretty much fight for themselves. It's a mobile game, it's on Switch, it's free to play, it looks kind of dumb. And people were like, eh. They're like, wait, just a second. Here's Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. And minds got blown. Because, OMG, we're getting the new, we're getting a new Pokemon game on Nintendo Switch, and it's coming in November. Everyone's super excited, but then as more information came out, people got increasingly disappointed. Me? I get it. Here's the thing. People got increasingly disappointed as more information came out, but then at the end of the conference, they said, oh, by the way, new proper mainline Pokemon game in 2019. So people are very excited about that, but, what's the point of Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee? Well, it's because people can't wait. We have our Switches. We want a Pokemon game on the Switch. We're chomping at the bit for that. And unfortunately, Pokemon games take a while to develop. Games take a while to develop. And Pokemon tends to have a lot of just, weird random features in it. And if you want to have a fully fleshed out, meaty Pokemon game, you gotta spend time developing it. So, releasing a brand new Pokemon game right now instead of Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee was pretty much off the table. In fact, they've openly admitted, okay, maybe not openly, but kind of sideways admitted that they've spent less time on Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee than they are on this new game. There's a Q&A that they did, and they said that Pokemon 2019, the next big game, will not have as much Pokemon Go influence because it began development, I think, before Pokemon Go and at the, as soon as they could start developing something for the Switch. So that pretty much openly admits we've been working on Pokemon 2019 longer than Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. These are thrown together by the B team, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, they're here to tide us over until then, and they actually look pretty fun once you look more into them. But at first, they definitely seem dumb. Because they've got, a lot of weird things. The main weird thing for a lot of people is that there are no wild battles in Pokemon Let's Go. It's a console version of Pokemon Go when you run into a wild Pokemon. You just throw things at it and catch it. But it does have trainer battles. So that's a thing. And one thing, a lot of people were saying that the game would have no online. Apparently, no, it does have online, and you will be able to trade and battle Pokemon against other users, but they'll have to have their own Nintendo Switch. Which is worth pointing out because the game has local co-op, which we'll get to in a minute. The other thing with the Pokemon Let's Go games is that you can transfer your Pokemon from Pokemon Go into Pokemon Let's Go. And along with all of this, they have what I think more people are excited about, and that's the stupid Pokeball controller. They are releasing a Pokeball controller for your Switch. You don't need it. It's an optional thing. But it is both a controller for your Switch, and it also interacts with Pokemon Go, where you can transfer Pokemon to this controller, and they will, make noise and do things. And I don't know all the details of what the deal is with this Pokeball. I assume it's going to be like the Pocket Pikachu and the Pokemon thing that came with Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but in the shape of a talking Pokeball thing. This also indicates that Pokemon Let's Go is going to have very simplistic controls because the controller, it's just that button in the middle of the Pokeball that you press up, down, left, right on to move things around, and then you click it in to select things. So Pokemon Let's Go is going to be a pretty one-button game. But it's very interesting in how they're handling it. Again, they've also mentioned it is just the Kanto region, and it is just the original 151 Pokemon plus one new Pokemon, which I'm just going to tell you right now, calling it now, the new Pokemon will be a legendary that you can only get from Pokemon Let's Go, and then you'll transfer it into Pokemon 2019 when it comes out. I'm just calling that now. That's probably how it'll work. One of the other disappointments with the game was how it looked. Now, the game does not look bad. Pokemon Let's Go is a very pretty-looking game, But I heard someone, this is like really worth mentioning, I heard someone mention that they were disappointed in how the game looked. And I was like, why? It's so pretty. And they're like, yeah, but it doesn't look like what I want out of a console Pokemon game. And I'm like, you make a good point. Why? Because as good as Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee look, they don't look as good as Pokemon Battle Revolution on the Wii. And that's a Wii game. It's the most gorgeous Wii game, but it's a Wii game. And I highly recommend you look up how that game looks, and the moment you see how Pokemon Battle Revolution looks, you go, oh yeah, that's what a console Pokemon game should look like. Basically, the beef there with the visuals is that it looks too much like the portable games. It's still like super deformed. What people want, well, what some people want, I'd certainly like it, is for a console Pokemon game to actually have like buildings that are to scale for your character, and your character being, full-sized, and so on. And I don't even know what area code that is. Random phone call. Nice. Anyway, but like people would like it if your character was actually to proper scale, and the buildings were to proper scale, and everything was like big, and you got an idea of how large the world is, rather than this like shrunk down, almost super deformed, but not quite world that you get in the standard Pokemon games. That's what a lot of people are hoping for. And the more I think about it, the more I go, wow, yeah, you're right. If they did Pokemon on a console, it would be great if we really had that sense of scale. It would be great if it could look like Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And for crying out loud, it's Pokemon. It's Nintendo's biggest, most successful, most legendary franchise. Everyone loves it. You can do this. You have the money, you have the resources, it would be very nice. But this is actually something that I find very interesting. In the Q&A, they actually said that Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is the more console-like one, and that the 2019 one will be more like the handhelds. So it sounds like they are not guaranteeing, if not outright denying, that Pokemon 2019 will be the console Pokemon game we all want, which I think is very disappointing. Because people have wanted a proper console Pokemon game since 1998, since Red and Blue came out. And like, I want to know what they mean by that, because the thing is, the portable, They've made some console Pokemon games, but they've never been full. You've got Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD, and they had, a console adventure mode, but it was like a little mini adventure mode. It wasn't a fully fleshed out, it wasn't a full Pokemon game like it is in the portables. And if that's what they mean, that this is going to be like the portables in terms of the amount of content, that's good. In terms of the amount of things you can do, that's good. But if they also mean in terms of like visuals and scales, we're going to be somewhat disappointed. Somewhat, because of course a lot of people really like Pokemon, and getting the next Pokemon game is still getting the next Pokemon game, but people would really like it if Nintendo could make something bigger, something more epic. We'd kind of like to see the big Pokemon game. And at the same time, I wonder if they've even had enough development time to even try something like that. And I wonder if Creatures and Game Freak will ever get that message. It's going to be interesting. But until then, Pokemon Let's Go does look kind of interesting. I think it's certainly a good call to throw this out there for Christmas. I think they might be betting on this to be their big Christmas game for the Switch, and I could see that. Again, comes out in November 18th, I think. And it is, I think, the thing that I find most intriguing about Pokemon Let's Go is the local co-op. Because that was a thing they showed, that at any time someone else can press start on the other controller and they can adventure with you on the same console, running around, getting into Pokemon battles and stuff. And like when you're catching Pokemon, you're both throwing Pokeballs at it, and the balls can like combine in midair so they can like help you catch Pokemon. And then when you're playing two-player co-op, you get into double battles, so each player gets to control their own Pokemon. And I'm like, that has some potential. That could actually be kind of neat. Just a a local co-op Pokemon game like that. I wonder how that's going to go down. I'm very curious to see how the game turns out. I'm very happy to find out that supposedly it will have online versus. And from what I could tell from what little combat they showed in the trailer, it looks like it has just the standard Pokemon combat system. So I think this will be a decent holdover. I almost wonder if I would have preferred them just straight porting Sun and Moon to the Switch. But this will be a decent and interesting holdover. And the main thing that I think a lot of people need to know about this game is that Pokemon 2019, it takes dev time. People need to remember that game development takes time. They need to put a lot of work and effort into making the next Pokemon game all it can be, and as such, they can't just throw Pokemon 2019 out in 2018. They need at least one more year to really get it together. And the revelation that I've literally just found, that Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were in development for a shorter amount of time than Pokemon 2019, explains so much. I think the moment you hear that, you should understand, okay, these are quick stopgap games. These are I think they outright said, they did outright say Pokemon 2019 will not be built off of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. We already had it in development before these games. These are a separate thing. Which raises a final question, which is, will Pokemon Let's Go be able to interact at all with Nintendo's Pokemon storage service? And will we be able to transfer our Pokemon from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee to Pokemon 2019? Only time will really be able to tell, but it'll be interesting to see how that goes down. I'm really hoping Nintendo has that Pokemon storage service working 100% too. If you're unfamiliar, Nintendo has they have a paid Pokemon storage service. The price isn't particularly high, but they created it as a means of better transferring your Pokemon from older games, being able to link up to an online server to store a ludicrous amount of Pokemon from various games, because they figure they might have trouble linking systems together in the future, but linking them to the internet will be easier, and it was just a thing. And I'm really hoping that they don't abandon it. That's my thing. It's okay, you've given us this paid Pokemon storage service, so it better be compatible with 2019, and hopefully compatible with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. We'll find out when they get here, though. Whew! So, that was a whole lot of talk about Pokemon. That's happening. I do believe it is time for a break. So, here is Bad Company by ASAP Rocky featuring Blockboy JB here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. And stay tuned for more GameBabble Live. Thank you. That was Glorious by Macklemore featuring Skylar Grey here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. Apologies for the slightly sparse content this week. Like I said, E3 is this weekend, and as such, a lot of companies are being a little bit tight-lipped about their new game releases. There hasn't been too terribly many big announcements, but we definitely have some. First of all, I'd like to apologize for last week. I said that Cody was coming out at the end of last week. That was wrong. It was actually Blue Vegito and Fused Zamasu for Dragon Ball FighterZ. Instead, Cody will be showing up at the end of the month, June 28th, which happens to also be the release date for Fighting EX Layer. That being the new Street Fighter EX game minus Street Fighter that is going to be coming out as a download I've had sort of mixed feelings towards it. I feel the roster is a bit on the small side, and certainly literally all my favorite characters are not in the game yet, and they'll be added if the game sells well enough, but I don't expect this game to sell well enough, so that makes me really sad. But I'm gonna pick it up because I want to play some of it, and Sanane is alright, but yeah, it's a bit of a weird release, and I think literally everyone is angry at Arika for them not including Pullumperna, as literally all the comments on everything ever for this game are people writing, where the heck is Pullumperna? When's Pullumperna? Why isn't Pullumperna in this game? I'm going to buy this game and hope that they add Pullumperna. The fact that she wasn't the first character they put in the game does bother me, and their decision to put in Shadowgeist over Pullumperna was a huge mistake. It's one of those Arika, you have no clue what you're doing kind of moments. So, yeah. And for some reason, I'm just fully expecting them to, like, not put her in first thing, even though she is the most demanded character. Like, here's how I'm expecting it to go down. I expect the game to sell just well enough to get one more character, and they'll put in Volcano Rosso. Which, people like Volcano Rosso, but, yeah, no. I don't know. I expect this entire endeavor to make me sad and angry and have everyone shouting, why in the heck did you not start with Pullumperna? Why? That is... You have to understand, this character is basically considered to be the Chun-Li of the EX series, even though she plays like Cammy. Many people, at least in the West, consider her to be the main character of the EX series, or one of the main characters. So, but clearly Arika doesn't. They consider Hokuto and Garuda and Kairi to be the main characters. And no one cares about them. Literally no one cares about them. I certainly don't. That's for darn sure. Anyway, enough complaining about that. I'm sure it'll be fine. I played the beta of it. It was good times. I hope it becomes successful. I just expect it to be a flop. It'll be a pretty enjoyable flop. Anyway, though, Fire Pro Wrestling World's PS4 release will be hitting August 28th for North America. And yeah, that's some good times. The only problem is I don't know if I want to get it on PS4 considering the Steam version is too good. See, here's the thing with Fire Pro Wrestling World. It has been in early access on Steam for like almost a year now, I want to say. And the Steam version has, and keep in mind, I'm a very console-centric person, but the Steam version has Steam Workshop support to allow you to upload and download custom characters. And that thing has thousands upon thousands of incredible custom characters on it already. And I don't think we'll be able to access those on PS4. We'll have to start all over. It would be really nice if they could come up with like some kind of easy way to like type in a code and get the character. You know, like use it like those procedural generation codes that compress all of a character's data down to like a few letters you type in. All of a world's data sometimes. You know, I wonder if they could do that, and that would be really great for the PS4 release of Fire Pro Wrestling World, and I'd probably pick it up if they did that. But they probably won't. And in which case, don't know why you'd get this on PS4, because Fire Pro Wrestling World will run on a potato, because it's Fire Pro. Fire Pro-tato, if you will. And there are so many characters available on the Steam version. It's amazing. I have a friend who is slightly addicted to downloading characters and organizing them and making characters. And Fire Pro Wrestling World is a pretty incredible little wrestling game that no one plays. No one plays it because they're too busy making characters, you see. It's a thing. If you haven't checked it out on Steam, I would recommend looking it up. Fire Pro is a weird series because pretty much all the games, they all use 2D sprites that are animated like a mannequin, where the hand and the forearm and the back arm and the body are all separate sprites, and they just move them around. But they all are said to play really well. A lot of wrestling fans really like them, and the character creation is kind of incredible. And yeah, so we have Fire Pro Wrestling World on Steam. You put in the Steam Workshop support, and the way you can just upload and download characters, it's a good time. It is a good time for everyone. Also, I should probably mention that Fallout 76, excuse me for a minute, it's a little bit outside my wheelhouse. Apparently, Bethesda just did, a teaser trailer that tells us nothing for Fallout 76, and then said, go pre-order it now! And then it turns out that it's kind of a spin-off game that plays more like Rust or Ark. What that means is Fallout 76 will be a survival game. It will be about gathering resources and making shelters and things like that, which I can see that working for the Fallout world, very much so, but I don't think it'll be the fleshed-out Fallout game a lot of people would really like. Anyway, speaking of things that are expected for E3, the Resident Evil 2 domain has been updated. This is important because back in, I guess it was 2015, wow, it's been a hot minute, Capcom said that they were going to do a remake of Resident Evil 2, and that was all they said. They just said, we do it, and then that's it. We haven't seen a single screenshot, a single speck of gameplay, anything. So, they're remaking Resident Evil 2. A lot of people who aren't me are very excited about this, but we haven't heard anything. So, maybe this E3 will finally see something for Resident Evil 2. And, again, I think everyone is hoping that we see something for Final Fantasy VII Remake, because people think the game is in a very, very, very bad spot and that no progress has been made on it. So, if we see any gameplay at E3, people will be very happy. Here's hoping. We'll see. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm expecting this E3 to be a complete disaster. But let's discuss that for a minute. Because Microsoft, first and foremost, is in a very bad place with the Xbox One. I don't bash it on this show. It's not even worth bashing. You go to Game FAQs, look at the game release lists, and you see that the Xbox One is generally getting half or less than the games on PS4 and has very, very, very few exclusives. Microsoft's big exclusive, Sea of Thieves, wound up being a complete flop. A lot of people hated it. Supposedly, they're just releasing this big DLC pack that's supposed to update everything and make everything so much better now and really improve a bunch of stuff, but I think the damage might have been done. Sea of Thieves is a little bit of a joke amongst a lot of people. So, it's a little iffy in that regard. I don't know if Microsoft will be able to do much with Sea of Thieves. And I don't think they have any interesting exclusives in the pipe. Of course, because I have so little faith in the Xbox One, to the point where I literally don't know what they could even show at their press conference, that means Microsoft is poised to surprise us. If Microsoft shows up with anything of interest, I will be shocked. Sony, I expect to make the biggest fumble. Because if they show the PlayStation 5 now, it will be way too soon. And that is a huge concern. That is a massive concern. Because there's a lot of people who are like, the PS4 is just picking up steam. Things are just getting going. We still want a couple more years of PS4 before you try to spring the PS5 on us. And again, the PS5 needs to have backwards compatibility. 100%. or there will be many, many issues. I know a console generation is, in the past, it's been 5 years long, and it's been 5 years since the PS4 launched. I know, doesn't feel like it. But at the same time, we just got the PS4 Pro like 1 or 2 years ago. And on top of that, the previous generation, the PS3 360 Wii generation, lasted a good 10 years. And video games are taking longer and longer to develop. Many games take 3 years to develop. Some games take 5 years to develop. So springing a new console on us now, we've just barely sunk our teeth into the PS4. And I know PC gamers are going to say, but the PCs are so much more powerful and they completely dwarf the PS4. Yeah, but we don't need it. We don't need that much power. At the very least, not until we've had the next big upgrade for VR. Because the number one, I do not think that a well-optimized game needs as much power as PCs give them. I think the PS4 is more than powerful enough for any gaming needs. As it is, I don't think people are properly harnessing the PS4's power. Giving them a PS5 now? Way too soon, I feel. And the only way I could feel, because it would just be a very minor graphical upgrade for a very high price. That's the problem. The only way to justify that is with VR. Because admittedly, the PlayStation 4, even the PlayStation 4 Pro, is a little bit underpowered for VR. Just a smidge. A lot of people are able to rein it in and make games for the PS4 VR, but they do have to do some work on optimizing and downgrading visuals. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But I could definitely see a PS5 would be much more justified if it was not just a graphical upgrade for standard gaming, but a big upgrade for VR. But for that to happen, it would need to be time for the PSVR 2. And for that to happen, VR technology would need to advance at least a good step more. That step would likely be inside-out tracking and wireless. At the very least, inside-out tracking. So you wouldn't have to set up cameras and things to track your position. Your headset could figure it out on its own. And right now, we've got some inside-out tracking. We've got some of it working very well, but it is incredibly expensive. So they need to work on that. It will probably... I'm going to say we need at least 2 more years before we get the next big upgrade in VR technology. And that will be enough to justify a PSVR 2, and that in turn will be enough to justify a PS5 as not just an upgrade for general visuals, but for better VR performance as well. I think we need 2 years, at least, before a PlayStation 5. If Sony shows a PS5 at E3 this year, they have jumped the shark, and it will bite them in the butt. And a lot of people, most people, nearly everyone, like, I've already heard people, my friend is already bashing, I have a friend who is already bashing Sony for copying the Nintendo Switch, and they haven't even done it yet. Everyone expects Sony to copy the Switch, and I'm saying that's a terrible idea. Because everyone will just call you a Switch knockoff. I don't even care how much more powerful your system is than the Switch. Everyone will just call you a Switch knockoff and will point and laugh at you. What the PS5 needs is power, and I would say it would be safer to bank on power and VR than trying to follow Nintendo's footsteps. Because it's hard to be successful when you're just seen as a knockoff. And I really want to emphasize that. If people just, especially because I don't see them making a portable system that is more powerful than the PS4. Because that's the thing. They can't go backwards. They can't say, here's the PS5, it's less powerful than the PS4, but it's portable. That would also blow up in their face. It would need to be more powerful than the PS4 Pro and portable. So it's completely curb-stomping the Nintendo Switch, and I don't see Sony pulling that off. I just don't. I think whatever they plan will blow up in their face. Sony is poised to drop the ball, especially because they're the best, they're like the top console right now. Switch is posing a threat, but Sony's on top right now. And that means that they have the biggest chance to fall. And then, of course, Nintendo, all they got to do is show some games, which they're already poised to do. So Nintendo's kind of preliminarily won E3 because they're going to show Smash Brothers. I think the new Smash Brothers will likely disappoint people. But we'll get back to that after the break. So we're going to take a quick break. Coming up next is, let's see, how about Celebrity by Cavo here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned. That was Remind Me to Forget by Kygo featuring Miguel here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jel, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. So, before that, slightly lengthier than I would have liked break, I mentioned that people will be inevitably disappointed by the new Smash Brothers. I'm kind of retreading some old territory, but hear me out. One of the big questions when they announced the Smash Brothers for Switch is this going to be a port of the Wii U game or a completely new Smash Brothers? Honestly, we don't know yet. We don't know anything yet. But people have been speculating, and a lot of folks have been saying, if this is just a port, people are going to be pissed. People will not be happy. I'm the one of the people who's actually on team please port the Wii U game. And that's because I know how time works. See, if you've never played Smash on Wii U, it's kind of really, really chock full of content. The roster is ludicrously huge and has tons of crazy characters in it. There's tons of stages. There's tons of features with I'm pretty sure it has a stage editor. You have, like, kind of a character editor thing. Then you have where they've got all the alt moves and stuff, and you can do that. And then, they had 8-player Smash, which was a big draw for me. And there's a lot of content in there. Now, there hasn't been a lot of time since Smash on Switch came out. And every time they make a new Smash game, they recycle some data, but in general, they're kind of starting over. They're like, okay, we'll port in a few characters and a few stages, but for the most part, they're starting over. They're making a lot of stuff again. And because of that, because there was so much content on Smash on Wii U, I worry that a lot of it is going to get lost in translation. Especially, the licensed characters are the big question. Are we going to have Ryu? Are we going to have Mega Man? Are we going to have Cloud? Like, really, is Cloud could be stuck on Wii U only? But I have to renew that licensing deal, and that's kind of a thing. And, Cloud was a big draw for a lot of people. And, that's one of the things when they do the Switch one. How many characters are we going to lose? How many stages are we going to lose? How many modes are we going to lose? And I don't think people think about that. They don't think about the fact that it takes a lot of time to develop these games. By my estimation, and I could be wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but a part of me looks at Smash for Switch and says that they only have time to develop 25% of a Smash game. So that could either be, here's Smash for Wii U with 25% more content, which would be awesome, or here's an entirely new Smash game that's 25% of Smash on Wii U. Which one would you prefer? That's where I'm at. I gotta admit, I am honestly concerned about Smash on Switch because the Wii U game was too good. Much like with Team Sonic Racing, where I'm like, I don't know how you top All-Stars Racing Transformed. I don't know how they're going to pull off a Smash game better than Smash on Wii U. And it's going to be very awkward because, of course, not a lot of people bought the Wii U. A lot of people are just going to go, oh, well, I skipped that one. I played the 3DS one. It was whatever. I skipped the Wii U one. Was it really that big of a deal? I'm just skipping ahead to the Switch one. And there will be a lot of Smash Wii U diehards. And when people go back and play Smash Wii U, they might realize how much of a better game it is than Smash Switch. I do not believe Smash Switch can top Smash Wii U. I think we're in a very odd situation with this. I think a port is the thing that would make the most sense, but a lot of people don't want a port. Now, I've also already talked about the fact that the way I expect it to go down is that they'll release a game that is 25% of Smash on Wii U, and then they'll release the rest as DLC, and then it becomes a question of how much of that is free DLC and how much of that is going to be paid DLC. How much more am I going to have to pay to get Smash Switch up to the quality of Smash Wii U? And again, how much do we lose? I like a lot of weird and obscure characters, so yeah, I was one of the people who actually liked the fact they put Palutena in Smash Switch. What in the heck is the chance of Palutena returning? My mains for Smash are Mewtwo, Rob, and Mr. Game & Watch. So, that's where I'm at. How much new can they actually put in the game in regards to, without leaving out too much from Smash Switch? There's just a lot of variables, there's a lot of what-ifs floating around, and I am fully braced for disappointment with Smash on Switch, and I think you should be too, because Smash on Wii U was too good. And I want all of that to return. I wouldn't be that sad about losing the character customization thing, because we couldn't really use it effectively. But I will be absolutely devastated if they remove 8-player Smash. 8-player Smash was the best feature of Smash Wii U, and I definitely want that to return. So, I'm very curious to see how Smash Switch goes down. I'm very curious to see how just everything with Smash Switch. I don't know how they could actually impress me with this game. I think it's going to be a very weird situation, because of course this is one of Nintendo's major system sellers, and it is poised to disappoint. So, we will see how that goes down. Moving on, though, I should mention that Pocket Rumble for the Switch is apparently done and will be going through the approval process. Pocket Rumble, is a fighting game with simplified controls and visuals based off of the Neo Geo Pocket Color. It is a Neo Geo Pocket Color inspired fighting game. It's an indie devved thing. It's been in development for a good long while. And now it is finished, and the Switch release is ready to be released. So hopefully that will be happening soon. But one of the other interesting things is a game called Little Dragon's Cafe, which is interestingly set to come out this summer. It is apparently a new game from the original creator of Harvest Moon, and this is one of those things that makes me kind of sad. Harvest Moon is kind of the original farming simulation game. That's what all of the farming games are kind of loosely based on, whether it's Stardew Valley or... Farmville. Whether it's Stardew Valley or Farmville, they are all based off of Harvest Moon. And back when the first one came out, it was a pretty crazy, hardcore, weird game for the Super Nintendo. Since then, the series has continued on and been weirdly successful enough to inspire many knockoffs, but at some point, there was a split, and now Harvest Moon, I guess, belongs to Natsume, while its original creators have split off, and they've started doing a new series called Story of Seasons. And the most recent Harvest Moon release on PS4 honestly looks like garbage. It does look like Harvest Moon is devolving from the original farming sim game to some mobile knockoff of itself. And the original creator started doing a new series called Story of Seasons. Well, now his next game is called Little Dragon's Cafe, and it is certainly different. The plot is that there's two twins, a boy and a girl, and you get to pick which one you want to play as, who run a cafe with their mother, but one day their mother falls asleep and doesn't wake up, and some old man just shows up and says, oh yeah, by the way, did you know your mother's a half-dragon? And the key to curing your mother is to hatch this baby dragon and do something with it. So now the two kids have to figure out how to run the cafe while raising a baby dragon and helping out the various townspeople while also going on adventures to collect ingredients and farm and, have ingredients to make food for the customers of their cafe. Certainly seems like a quirky little game, and it is apparently going to be released this summer, they say, and I think it's getting a Switch release. Let me see if I can find what systems it's on. Yeah, PS4 and Switch. So that's a kind of interesting thing. Also, while we're talking about crazy things, Senran Kagura Burst Renewal, which is a remake of the first Senran Kagura game, is set to come out worldwide for PS4 and PC this fall. Xseed has just shown off their special editions, and people are mildly disappointed, both because the more expensive special edition is just 6 keychains for a ludicrously high price, and there's no sign of the art book, which is weird. But yeah, Burst Renewal is coming this fall. I played a demo of it, and while it plays fine, I will say I'm mildly disappointed because the original Senran Kagura Burst was a side-scroller, and the new one just plays like Estival Versus and Shinobi Versus. And I think that's a real shame, because a lot of people have been mentioning that all the Senran Kagura... A lot of people who aren't Senran Kagura fans, who've just played him passingly, say all the Senran Kagura games play the same. And it is true that you can barely tell the difference between Shinobi Versus, Estival Versus, and Burst Renewal. But the original Senran Kagura Burst and Senran Kagura 2 Deep Crimson play radically different from all the other Senran Kagura games. And I think it's a shame that we're kind of losing that more unique gameplay for something that just plays like all the other Senran Kagura games, which it plays good. The original Senran Kagura Burst was a very rough, low-budget game, but I would have liked to have seen them actually upgrade that instead of just making another Estival versus Shinobi versus type of game. I'm also concerned because the original Senran Kagura had a much more serious storyline than the other games in the series, and I'm concerned that they're going to change the tone with this remake, and it will lose all the things that made the original Senran Kagura such an emotional game. I will admit I cried a couple times when I played the original game, which might seem strange, because Senran Kagura is like the fan service game to end all fan service games. It puts Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball to absolute shame with its shamelessness. But the original game it had a really good story. It was well written because they put aside the character designs and just focused on the character backstory and who they were, and it was kind of interesting in that regard, especially the villain team, the Hebijo school. Their stuff was kind of heart-wrenching at times. And I don't know how much of that is going to actually carry over into this remake. I can tell you the remake is a good game, because I've played the demo, and it plays great. But it's more Estival Versus. And I think we're losing a lot in this remake, and I think it's a darn shame that so much of the newcomers to the Senran Kagura series are missing out on the original Senran Kaguras. Because the core Senran Kagura games, the actual serious storyline, they're all 3DS games. The main Senran... There have only been 2 main Senran Kaguras, and they've been 3DS games. We're going to get our third main Senran Kagura game, and that's Senran Kagura 7. Just bear with me here. But I'm concerned that might be another Estival versus like 2, and I think we're missing a lot with that. And so I'm kind of on the fence. It's like, oh yeah, this is going to be a really good game, but we're missing a lot, but it's an upgrade, but it's also really samey, and I think that's a shame. So yeah, that's about where I'm at with Senran Kagura Burst Renewal. So, I think it's time for a little bit of a break. I don't think that's going to hurt anyone. And when we get back, I will talk about Super Mario Tennis Aces, which I played the beta of this past weekend, and it was awesome. I have a lot of things to say about that, and I think that will be a good way to wrap up the show for this week. But until then, here's Top Off by DJ Khaled featuring Jay-Z, Future, and Beyonce here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. That was Don't Matter by August Alsina here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. So, 2 more pieces of information. First of all, Persona 5 Dancing Star Night has come out in Japan, and people have discovered that it does not have much of a story mode. This is noteworthy because Persona 4 Dancing actually had a big, lengthy story mode that explained, why people were dancing to fight shadows. Persona 5, no, it's just social links. It's just a party. But still, fun times. Also, I'm very happy because, as you know, I always talk about VR. I love my PlayStation VR. I love VR. I think there's a real future here. I think we're still in the early phases. We need to give it some time to build up, but I can see it drastically improving all the time, month after month. It just keeps getting better. And there is a trailer out now for a game called Detached, which is apparently going to be cross-platform. It's going to have PvP, and it looks like it's just a game of people in space suits floating in space shooting at each other. I think. I'm not 100% sure what's going on. But the thing that I really love about it, and it's sad that this is what makes me happy, is that at the end of the trailer, they just outright have a nausea warning and say, this is going to be a very intense game. It will probably make you sick. It will have very quick acceleration, moving at high speed, spinning and free-falling through space. I'm excited for this. Because it's going to be a real test to see. Because a lot of VR developers, they're cautious. They keep neutering their games in order to make sure they don't make anyone sick, and most of the time it never works. You just have to adapt to VR. Because that's the thing. If you adapt to VR, you get over your motion sickness. It is possible, and this game is just going to be the ultimate test of that. We don't care, we don't get sick from VR, let's see how other people who don't get sick from VR feel about this random game that is pretty much designed to make you sick. I'm pretty excited. It could be pretty fun. I'm interested to see how it plays out. Moving on, though. As I mentioned, Mario Tennis Aces had its demo thing over the weekend. I got to play it, and I am very pleased, although I will say I am terrible at it. Wow. I'm usually pretty okay at Mario Tennis. Pretty good. Mario Tennis Aces, no, this might be biting off more than I can chew. This game is complex. Because standard Mario Tennis is pretty much just an evolved version of Pong, right? You get to where the ball is, you hit 2 buttons to choose what kind of shot you want to do, and tilt the stick to maybe aim it a little bit. For the most part, it's pretty close to just Pong. Mario Tennis Aces adds so many mechanics on top of that, and it still has a classic mode. And it even has, like, a motion-controlled Wii Tennis-style mode if you want to go super casual. But the main game mode is nuts. Because, okay, you still have your press A and B in different combinations to do different shots thing. You still have the sooner you get to where the ball is going and start charging up, the better. But they've also added in some other controls for shortcuts for doing different shots, which I'm a little iffy on what they've done with the X button. But one of the new things they added in is there's this meter that you build up as you play, and it can be used to do various things. One of those things is you can double tap X while holding a direction to do a special movement to quickly leap in front of the ball. This is to make it so that way there is absolute, like, I get it, it drains a little bit of your meter, but it makes it so that way there is absolutely no uncatchable shot. That's one of the annoying things with some tennis games, is that it's sometimes possible to hit the ball at such a sharp angle to the other side of the field while getting your opponent to one side that they absolutely can't catch the ball. Now, if you have enough meter, you can backflip and cartwheel over to where the ball is and catch it. But it's going to cost you a little bit of meter. And it's already amazing because of Waluigi. He has taken a level in swag, as not only does he do his crazy Rose pirouette and JoJo poses, but he moonwalks over to the ball for his special movement. On top of that, when you can also use meter to slow down time, allowing you to get over to the ball faster. And on top of that, they have special shots. They have special aimed shots that use meter, where it goes into a first-person view, and you can either use the analog stick or tilt to aim at the exact spot on the court where you want the ball to hit. But all of these things drain meter, and you kind of want a full meter, because when you have a full meter, you can do a super shot. And the super shots in this game are a combination of the offensive and defensive shots from the other one. You hit super shot, you catch the ball no matter what. Costs your whole meter, gotta have a full meter, but it doesn't matter where the ball is on your side of the court, you catch it. Just, and then you get to do an aimed shot that's super powerful, and your opponent has to counter it with really specific timing. They basically have to parry it. And the worse timing they have, the more damage their racket takes. And if their racket takes too much damage, it breaks. You break 3 of your opponent's rackets, they lose tennis by KO. This game is amazing. And so it's all about meter management. It's all about knowing when to use your meter and when not to, and baiting your opponent into using meter, and, stuff like that, and just really, really specific timing. And it's like, wow, this game is blowing my mind. It's a little bit more complex than I would like, but at the same time, I appreciate it. Because this complexity means a lot. Because to be honest, Mario Tennis is just Virtua Tennis. It's just a variation of Virtua Tennis. And as such, in the past, it's been really easy to clone. There's a Hot Shots Tennis, there's a Sega Superstars Tennis. You can make Mario Tennis without Mario. There's not a lot to differentiate it and make it special. All this crazy time slowdown, backflip, racket-breaking nonsense, this evolves Mario Tennis into something so much more. And I appreciate it. This is Mario Tennis looking Windjammers in the face and saying, I see you. I see what you're doing. They are taking the challenge from the 90s that predates Mario Tennis. Don't think too hard about it. Either way, I'm really happy to see this, especially because Mario Tennis has had a rough time. See, I played the original Mario Tennis on N64, and I loved it. I had a friend, it pains me that I can't remember his name, but he was a hardcore Nintendo fan, and when me and all my other friends were hanging out, he brought over Mario Tennis, and we laughed, and we were like, well, whatever, it's 4-player, we'll give it a shot. Tried it once, fell madly in love with it. Mario Tennis on N64 is phenomenal. And then, they made another one on GameCube. And okay, it's Mario Tennis now with super moves. We were a little iffy on the super moves, but hey, more Mario Tennis. Mario Tennis on GameCube is great. The Wii is announced. They do a teaser trailer for Mario Tennis. It never happens. Instead, they just took the GameCube game, removed the GameCube controls, and put in really, really awful waggle control that didn't work. Okay, well, that sucked. Then they did a Mario Tennis on the 3DS. And that one dumbed the game down drastically. Basically, all you had to do was move to wherever you saw a star and press the X button, and your character would automatically do the best shot. You could manually choose shots, but there was no point. It was so much easier to just go to the star and hit X, and that's all you did. Go to the star, hit X. Go to the star, hit X. It dumbed the game down so drastically, it was no fun to play at all. Following that came Mario Tennis Ultra Smash on the Wii U. And I can safely say it played well. Unfortunately, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash on Wii U has no content at all. There's no tournament mode. There's no story mode. There's no mini games. There's no nothing. It is one stadium, one single stadium, an okay roster of characters, and like a mode where you can train your amiibo as a doubles partner and you could play online. It was nothing. Ultra Smash was nothing. It was a nothing that was better than the previous two Mario Tennises, the one that was ridiculously dumbed down, and the one that was just a rehash of a previous game now with broken controls. But it was nothing. It was sold for like nearly full price. So, Mario Tennis has kind of been getting the middle finger for 14 years and 3 games. So Nintendo coming back and completely turning it around, going from let's dumb down Mario Tennis for the casuals, even though the base game is already easy enough to play, let's dumb it down further, to let's take the game, pile on boatloads of mechanics to make Mario Tennis something truly unique and original, then create a lengthy RPG story mode reminiscent of the portable games, really crank up the presentation and quality. They've gone nuts, and I love it. They have taken Mario Tennis, and they have turned it into something magical, and this, oh egad, I appreciate this. Even though I am terrible at these new mechanics, I love it. Of course, the big question you're probably asking is, how's the netcode? And for me, it's fine. I've seen a lot of people complain about the netcode. I don't see the problem. It plays fine to me. It doesn't seem like it's interrupting my controls at all. And I've played with people with 2-bar connections. It seemed fine. I will say, though, I love the online tournament mode. Because the way they have it set up is the online tournament mode, you don't need to wait for like 8 players to show up. No, it's this weird, continually ongoing tournament. The way it works is you go online and it searches for an opponent and you play against them. And then you search for your next opponent, and it only goes from the pool of people who have already beaten their first opponent. And then you beat them, and you go on to the next opponent, and it only chooses from the people who have already beaten 2 opponents. So as you encounter these people, their pieces of the tournament bracket show up. So when you finally get to the end, it fills out the whole tournament bracket. But what makes it really great is the grand finals. Because they actually make the grand finals special. If you beat all your opponents and get to the grand finals, you go to this special stadium with this light-up court, and you've got 2 toads doing commentary. You can turn them off, but you've got 2 toads doing text commentary at the bottom of the screen, and special final round intros to turn this random person you just got matched up with on the internet into an epic final boss duel for the trophy. And it's like, I can't believe they just cranked that up so high. I am very excited for Mario Tennis Aces, which comes out at the end of the month. And I'm hyped. I am overwhelmingly hyped for this because it is something we have essentially waited 14 years for this game. To give us a Mario Tennis worthy of following up the N64 game. Because honestly, Power Tennis on GameCube, it was good, but something felt a little off with it. This is something new. This is something big. This is Nintendo turning Mario Tennis into something worthwhile. And I kind of understand it because, the more system sellers you have, the better. Nintendo already has a lot of system sellers. In fact, one could argue Nintendo has too many system sellers, as people constantly complain about them not making new entries in their first-party franchises because they have too many of them, while simultaneously complaining that all Nintendo does is rehash their first-party franchises. Don't you love the situation Nintendo's in sometimes? But, I think they're hoping, People will buy a Nintendo system for Mario Kart. People will buy a Nintendo system for Smash Brothers. I think they're hoping maybe they can get people to buy a system for Mario Tennis, which is already the case for me, but I'm so happy that they've beefed the game up so much and evolved it so heavily. So yeah, Mario Tennis Aces looks immensely promising. I'm pretty hyped for this one. I'm going to need to put some time in to really learn it, but I think I'm going to have some fun. So I do believe that about wraps up the show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I know the breaks were a little long because I didn't have a lot to talk about because, well, E3 is this weekend. So everyone's, they're being there's little leaks here and there that are questionable, but for the most part, they're all holding their announcements until they smack us all in the face this weekend. And that's going through the whole week. So more than likely, next week's show and the week after's show is going to be something special. And it's going to get kind of nuts. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. I know some people have beef with E3. Some people think that E3 is ruining gaming. I don't know why. It's not, E3 isn't the problem. Pre-rendered trailers are the problem, if you ask me. I have fun with it. I have fun with it. It is the trailers before the beginning of the year. It's when everyone does their big announcements and tries to outdo one another. And I think a little bit of competition is good. But remember, when you see E3 trailers, if all they're showing is CG, get skeptical. Get very skeptical. Because, CG doesn't mean anything. It doesn't tell us anything. Cripes, I've seen so many bad teaser trailers that tell us nothing. Makes me sad. Anyway, that wraps up the show for this week. I hope you tune in next week from noon to 3 p.m. for more GameBabble Live, where we will be covering whatever they reveal for E3 up to that day. Until then, here is Malibu by Miley Cyrus here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you for listening. See you next week.